Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We've heard some interesting assumptions on the side of opposition. What I try to establish when I ask my POI, why can't they have a part-time job, is that you don't have to be near your children all the time. There are many moments when your child is actually not in your presence in order to be a good parent. And they have a sort of muddled view of what it means to be a good parent. Constant supervision, of being there all the time. As if family bonds cannot be created during evening hours. I mean, the afternoon seems to play a big role as a timing device in their entire plan. And we simply don't understand why that is. Then we even heard a more ridiculous claim that a lot of the neglect and alcoholism that currently seems to happen in our society, which of course is reasonable to assume, has to do with people having jobs. And then you give them an incentive to stay at home, to not have any outside responsibilities, be in that environment all the time, isolated from their colleagues, from any sort of normal lifestyle, and that will help battle alcoholism. We don't really see why, and the causal link is really bad to establish. Then we were asked to establish why work is good. Well, as a person, it gives you self-worth. And it also means that you are not dependent on the state for basically a tax income. You'll be self-sufficient, you'll be able to provide for your own family. We think that gives self-worth to people and makes them, better people in general. And also it's nice that we can save some tax dollars. Now, what do we want to establish in this second speech? First of all, I want to talk to you why this will be a bad incentive to potential parents. Then I will talk to you about the stigma that this will actually put on parents that decide to still go to work while having children. Then I'll also talk to you about why this will be bad for parents in the long run. And of course, I'll deal with the interesting demographic problem that isn't really a problem. First of all, they claim that there are people who currently, are not choosing to have children because some sort of income-related problem is keeping them from doing that. We already have free education, we already have child benefits in order to protect the child from any parental poverty, but still there are some people there that, that deem themselves incapable of raising enough money for a child. And then they simply want to give them a wage and to say, let's do it. You can have your family life, even though you cannot provide enough income for it. Is that really a good thing to do? Because who are you incentivizing? If people need to educate themselves more, or need to have more work experience to raise their earning potential, or have a steady relationship with someone who has that earning potential and who can provide for their family. If they have to wait a while longer in order to get to that situation, we think that's a good thing in order for them to wait. And to incentivize them to have prematurely have a family without having the earning potential has the potential for disaster. Which brings me to my second point, why this is bad for parents and society in general. As Ali already said, if you are at home and you're not in the workplace, you will lose job skills. Your career path will have a huge gaping hole. And basically, if you're outside of the workplace, if you don't have contact with colleagues or with the normal economic goings on, that means that your value as an employee will decrease over time. Because other people are increasing their job skills, are educating themselves, are basically working on their lives. So what then happens if your children reaches the age at which you are no longer entitled to this wage? What happens then? At what sort of income will you then be able to generate? Because you have had no personal growth in the meantime. How will you solve that?
If you only get better and educate yourself while at work, then what would be the sense of universities where the people clearly do not work but still can educate
themselves? Right. Because university is a horrible place to get education. I really don't see the point. Now, the interesting thing here is that we say, look, we want responsible adults to be able to have part-time jobs, to be in the workplace as much as possible, and to combine that with responsible parenting. And we think that because children are in school a lot of the hours of the day, that gives you plenty of time, especially when you're in a couple, to make arrangements so that you can combine your professional life with your home life and be and not have your career sabotaged. Now I want to move on to my third point, namely the stigma. Because what if this really works? What if a lot of people will choose to stay at home, will choose to accept this wage? What kind of parent are you then if you have this wage lying there basically for you up for grabs and you still choose to go to the workplace? Are you not then a neglecting parent because you don't need the money, you're only doing it because basically you don't want to be around your child, or because you have such an ego that you don't want to sacrifice your time for that child? Is that really the standard we want to raise? And if this applies to women more than men, because usually women are the ones staying at home, do we really want them to leave their jobs massively because of this stigma, or leave their jobs in general, we don't see why this is actually a good incentive. And please try to salvage your case, because
we say if the parent can get a job that pays them more than this wage would be, this would allow them to take better care of the child. We see nothing wrong with that.
right, so suddenly you are still in favor of them having a job and having some extra money. And I really don't see how this sort of fits into your entire idea of these bonds forming because parents are around all the time. Basically, you just agreed with a large part of our definition of what good parenthood is. No. I want to move on to the most curious of their problems, namely the demographic problem. They say we need more babies. We simply don't believe that. Look, a lot of our institutional arrangements have been set up in a time when a few parents had big families, therefore a lot of children, to take care of them later on. And therefore, there was always this expectation that the next generation will basically fund pensions and so forth. And this institutional arrangement can easily be changed. We already have states having less debts. Well, not in this economic crisis, but normally they are more responsible with not creating too much of a burden on the next generation. There's already a lot of private pension funds in which people take care of their own future, their own old age, instead of burdening the children. And even so, a lot of parents, or a lot of people that will be old in the next decade, have their own homes, their own savings, they can live off. So we don't really see this problem, and maybe you should just tax the old people a bit more in order not to burden the next generation. The point is that if you want to incentivize people to have more children, which you don't really believe that will work, then we'll simply shift the burden onto the next generation, because they will also have to have more children in order to support that sort of that generation. We don't see that real problem. We don't see the need for more children. So what have we said here? Look, it's a bad incentive because it makes people become parents prematurely, before they are responsible adults, before they have the earning potential to really carry a family. We also say this is bad for parents because it sabotages their jobs. It makes them leave their jobs instead of staying in the workplace and building their earning potential for later. Also, when they're off this wage, there's no real way that they can support themselves in a meaningful way, and there's no demographic problem. That's easily solved in other ways. I beg you to oppose.